How good will the Pittsburgh Steelers defense be in 2022? We already covered how good this offense would be in the previous segment. Make sure that you guys go ahead and check that out. I'll have a card popping up so you guys can see my thoughts on the Steelers offense going into this year. But the defense last year definitely took a step back. Injuries plus not having talent at certain positions hurt Pittsburgh. And on top of that, the offense didn't do this defense any favors because there were a lot of games where the Steelers offense was stalling out. They couldn't sustain drives. They were going 3 and out. And it's really disheartening as a defense. Think about it. If I'm Cam Hayward and I just got to stop, just help the opposing offense go 3 and out, help my offense get the ball back. All of a sudden, they go 3 and out, and here I am, back on the field, putting my helmet on, chin strap on. I didn't even get a chance to get a sip of Gatorade, and here I am, back on the field. I didn't even get a chance to catch my wind or catch my breath. So for the defense, with the offense being slightly improved this year, that's going to help the defense out because they're going to be on the field for way less plays. And the more plays that a defense is on, the more tired they get, which is another reason why this run defense wasn't that great. And the run defense was the worst in the NFL. They were allowing 143.8 rushing yards per game. This is the worst run defense that the Steelers have had in a very long time because normally the Steelers are pretty good against the run. So you're probably asking, JT, how do the Steelers plan to fix the run defense? Well, it's simple. Tyson Alualu is coming back. He only played in 2 games before his season got cut short. And Cam Hayward and Alualu are expecting for star defensive lineman Stephon Tuitt to return this year. Stephon Tuitt missed all of 2021 with injuries. He also was dealing with some personal issues off the field. He lost one of his family members. Thoughts and prayers with him. And I guess he just wasn't in the mindset to play football. And even if he doesn't come back, we may not see Stephon Tuitt return again. But according to Cam Hayward, they expect him to come back this year. I trust their word. I'm pretty sure they may have already talked to him. Cam Hayward said he hasn't been at OTAs, but he's in Indy working out. So I expect him to be able to suit up. And if he does play this year, this defense is definitely going to be way better than what it was last year. And another thing is that the linebacker position wasn't great. Devin Bush looked like a shell of himself last year. He couldn't cover. He wasn't good against the run. But you know what's going to help Devin Bush bounce back? Pittsburgh hired Brian Flores as their senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach. And Brian Flores spent a lot of time in New England working with the linebackers such as Dante Hightower. And one thing about Brian Flores is that he has a super aggressive defensive approach to the game. You go back and you watch all of the blitzes that Miami was doing last season, 0 blitzes. They were super aggressive. He teaches linebackers how to see it and go. And that's something that when you look at Devin Bush last season, he was kind of hesitant at times. It seemed as if he didn't trust his body, seemed as if he didn't know if he had the speed to make certain plays, and his confidence was kind of shocked. So for Brian Flores, he's going to help Devin Bush play more faster. He's going to help him get better at diagnosing plays and being able to break on them. Then you also brought in linebacker Myles Jack, who formerly was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's also, just like Devin Bush, looking to bounce back from a pretty poor 2021 campaign. And it's really weird what happened to Myles Jack because prior to the 2021 season, he was pretty much a top 5 linebacker in the NFL. And then the Urban Meyer and his coaching staff just come and just mess up everybody like they did with Trevor Lawrence. So with Myles Jack and Devin Bush having the assistance of Brian Flores as their linebackers coach, that is going to be huge. And Myles Jack even said that Flores was a big reason why he decided to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we don't know how long both Flores and Myles Jack are going to remain with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jack only signed a 2-year deal, and Brian Flores is most likely going to be in the line for another head coaching job next season, depending on what happens with his lawsuit and whatnot. Because if he never decided to pursue legal actions against the NFL, he probably will be the head coach of the Houston Texans or somebody else at the moment. So Brian Flores being on the staff on defense is really big. It's going to help this defense out a lot. You're also going to be having a new defensive coordinator in Teryl Austin. He's going to be replacing Keith Butler, who's been the DC in Pittsburgh for the previous 7 years. I don't expect him to have a major difference on this defense when it comes to the play calling, because Mike Tomlin is still going to call the plays on defense, and Mike Tomlin has been calling the plays for a very long time. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that Mike Tomlin has been calling the plays for as long as he has. And Keith Butler has been doing a little bit of a press run after his retirement, interviewing on different radio shows and whatnot. And he said that Mike Tomlin has been calling the plays back to the tail end of Dick LeBeau's run as DC for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't think that Mike Tomlin needs to change his defensive scheme. I know many people get tired of seeing great quarterbacks such as Patrick Mahomes and Brady rip through Mike Tomlin's zone coverage. But I mean, they're Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady for a reason. And on top of that, Mike Tomlin was able to go out and improve certain positions that needed to be addressed. You go ahead, you get the linebacker position improved. Myles Jack is going to be replacing Joe Schobert, which Joe Schobert wasn't great in coverage. He was a liability in coverage. Myles Jack can do it all. And hopefully Devin Bush can bounce back to his former self pre-ACL injury. So that's going to help out the defense. On top of that, you were able to bring in cornerback Levi Wallace, which Levi Wallace is coming off the best season of his career with the Buffalo Bills. He stepped up in a major way when Tre'Davious White went down with his season-ending injury. So with him being in the room at cornerback, you're going to pair him up with Ahkello Witherspoon, who had 3 interceptions last season, led the team, also had 9 pass deflections. And Ahkello Witherspoon was a pretty big surprise, because this was somebody prior to last year who has kind of had a up and down career up to that point. And he's back on a short-term deal. And if he balls out, he could end up getting a very long-term extension. On top of that, some of the younger cornerbacks on this team played really well, such as Trey Norwood. I was really impressed with how he performed. You also have Arthur Millette. Arthur Millette made a couple of big plays. We can't forget about Cam Sutton. It looks as if Cam Sutton is going to be playing slot corner, which I like him at slot corner more than I enjoy seeing him play outside corner, because I think that his skill set with his athleticism is better suited for him to play in that slot, especially when you look at the fact that the Steelers love to blitz their corners. Their corners are kind of like a fifth blitzer in a sense. And I think he's really athletic, and he fits that role perfectly. Then you also have James Pierre, who is a good backup. I had some high expectations for James Pierre, but last year we kind of saw that he's just a good depth corner. If you have a starter that goes out, he could come in and play for a couple of games. But if you need him to be your long-term starter, not really the answer there. At safety, you have Terrell Edmunds, who had a really good season, 89 tackles, 6 pass deflections, and 2 interceptions. And I'm going to have to make a separate segment about Terrell Edmunds, because I think he's one of the most overhated players in the league. I understand he was a first-round pick. He hasn't played up to those expectations, but he definitely has been really good. He's gotten better every single year since he's gotten drafted, which is why I'm excited about what he can do this season, because you look at how he's developed over the last couple of years, getting better and better every single year. This year, maybe he could end up having a Pro Bowl caliber season. And Terrell Edmunds, he's not great in coverage, but he has improved that area of his game. But he's really good in run support, which is really what the Steelers are looking for. At that strong safety spot, they're looking for somebody who can come down and be assistance in the run game. And Terrell Edmunds most definitely was that, because the dude had 89 tackles. You have Minkah Fitzpatrick, one of the best safeties in the game. He led the team in tackles last season with 124. He had 7 pass deflections and 2 interceptions. He's in line for a big contract extension with Pittsburgh. Then when you look at the edge rusher position, we already know about TJ Watt, the reigning defensive player of the year. It's about doggone time he was able to beat out Aaron Donald for it. He's coming off a career high 22.5 sacks, record setting, 5 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries. He's also is coming off his 3rd straight All-Pro team. Then you have Alex Highsmith. Not enough people are talking about how good Alex Highsmith was for Pittsburgh last year. And it's easy to overlook his impact because when you have 2 All-Pros that you're playing alongside, such as Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, you're not going to get a lot of recognition. But Alex Highsmith had 74 tackles, 15 TFLs, and 6 sacks. So he could end up being somebody who ends up having 8 sacks this year. We also can't forget about Chris Wormley, who was surprisingly good last season. He had 7 sacks. And when the Steelers traded for Chris Wormley, I'm going to be honest, I didn't think he was going to last too long on the roster because my mindset was the Ravens are willing to trade you to their arch rival. That says that they don't believe in you that much as a player. Well, I mean, Chris Wormley balled out last year. He's going to be a good rotational piece in pass rushing situations and passing downs. You also have rookie defensive lineman DeMarvin Leal, who the Steelers drafted in the 3rd round of this past year's NFL draft out of Texas A&M. He's mainly going to be used in situations where it's obvious passing downs because he's 6'4", 283 pounds. I don't really know what to make of Lil. He has fast hands and good feet, but his film is a little bit underwhelming when you think about the hype that he had last year, and I don't really know what to think about it. It's a little bit up and down. He's just one of those players that I just have to see what he does in game for me to make my analysis on how I feel about him, but he is there. You also do have Cam Hayward, who my guy Juice Alert had the nerve to disrespect. You know, my guy Juice Alert had the nerve to tell me that Cam Hayward shouldn't really be talked about because he's old. I said, dude, are you crazy? You're judging somebody because of their age? Because he was trying to tell me that the Steelers defense is overrated. I said, dude, we have TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward. He replies, he's old. I said, bro, he's been balling with age. He gets better with age, and great players are able to prolong their careers because they're able to play at a very high level into their late 30s. Look at Tom Brady. The dude's doggone near 100 years old, still playing at a really high level. You look at Chandler Jones, he's playing at a really high level into his 30s. Von Miller, same thing. So when it comes to great players regress at a slower rate than normal players do. And for Cam Hayward, he's coming off his 5th consecutive Pro Bowl appearance. He is on his 3rd All-Pro team last season, and he has 10 sacks. He's one of, if not the 2nd best interior defensive lineman that we have in this game. So this Steelers defense most definitely should improve. It should go back to what it was previously, being one of the best defenses in the league. This was a team that didn't really have a lot of talent on that end. They also dealt with injuries, and injuries caught up to them. And then the offense didn't do them no favors, not being able to sustain drives. So I think the Steelers defense is going to end up being a top 10 defense once again. We already know they always are the best team when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. But with the addition of Levi, Wallace in the secondary, adding in Myles Jack at linebacker, and bringing in Brian Flores as the linebackers coach to coach up Myles Jack and Devin Bush, I think that this may be one of the best defenses that the Steelers have had in recent memory. And that's strong praise considering that the Steelers have had some of the best defenses in the league over the last couple of years. So let me know how you guys are feeling about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense going into the 2022 NFL season. And also make sure that you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. We're finally able to get an episode recorded with no mistakes, so I appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys check out the podcast on every single podcasting platform. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. And I will see you guys shortly with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.